Hello and welcome back everyone to this live demo session on SAP ABAP on HANA come S4HANA technical training with me Anubhav. In this live demo session, we are going to connect, migrate, understand, build and deliver an end-to-end S4HANA live application. You're going to learn tools, technology and techniques in the next 40 hours in this training. So let's get started and understand our agenda for this demo session today. So first, we'll try to understand what's our developer persona, who is going to be attending this training. In the second phase, I will take you through the overview of this training. What is that we're going to learn and cover, which will give you a brief perspective of what will be part of the training. Then we will look at our sample demo use case for today. We will build a end-to-end S4HANA application in the demo session, and then we will build a Fiori application on top of it. Finally, I will answer some of the frequently asked questions, and then I will open the line for live question and answers. So let's get started. So first, let's understand who is this training for. So if you are an ABAP consultant and want to embrace the change in the technology, run your existing ABAP programs faster and better on HANA, then this training is going to help you. If you are a BW consultant and wants to learn how to build CDS views for the purpose of consuming it in the analytics, then this training is also going to help you. If you are a Scrum lead who would like to understand how typically a HANA-based development project runs and estimate better for tomorrow, this training is also going to help you a lot. Or you are any SAP consultant who's a technical enthusiast, wants to build new Fiori applications on top of SAP S4HANA programming paradigm, then this training is going to definitely help you out. So, what is that we're going to cover in the whole training? So as I mentioned, we are going to start first the introduction of ABAP on HANA. If you are beginner with SAP HANA, don't worry. We are going to cover basics of SAP HANA as part of the training. You will learn different tools and syntaxes, including ABAP development tool on Eclipse, how to set up that in your system to connect to your ABAP on HANA system. We will learn about Business Application Studio tool and also the new ABAP syntax into the SAP NetWeaver layer. We will talk about a lot of frameworks like BOPF CDS integration, integrated data access for ALV, fuzzy and fault tolerant search. We will understand the core concepts of SAP HANA and its architecture, including how ABAP is meeting HANA, and also see how to connect to a HANA database to write SQL script logic, which can put data intensive logic into HANA. We will talk about S4 HANA code conversion along with VDMs in S4, so-called virtual data models. We will learn about S4 HANA CDS views, how to build them, what are all the best practices, do's and don'ts with CDS views, including the data security and associations. You will see some of the advanced topics like CDS table functions and annotations working with CDS. Then finally, we will learn how to work with ABAP managed data procedures and OData services to build Fiori apps on the latest tools like Business Application Studio. So let's move on to our agenda for today. I have got you a very amazing use case, which is also relevant pretty much in today's context. We have a second wave of COVID in India at the moment, and we would like to analyze the COVID data to build a analytic application on top of S4HANA. So what I've done today is created a sample database table with actual data of the month of April in the database table in S4 system. On top of it, we are going to build a CDS view and add certain annotations and finally build a Fiori application. So in order to achieve this goal, we are going to do step by step. So in the step one, we are going to launch our development tool, which is so-called ABAP development tool on Eclipse. In the phase two, I'm going to create CDS views. Then in the third phase, we will annotate. We will enrich our CDS data model with annotations so that it can provide the necessary metadata information to our Fiori application. In the next phase, we are going to expose a OData service out of our S4HANA system, which supplies data to SAP Fiori application. And finally, we will see how to consume it in a Fiori application built on Business Application Studio. Now, again, I'm repeating, it's a demo session. Perhaps you may not be able to understand this complete demo end to end because I need to still work a lot on your fundamentals. This session is just to give you a perspective and an overview of how typically you will be working at later point of time after you're well versed with the concepts in S4HANA. However, if you have little idea, it's very good. If you have no idea, just enjoy the show. And then later on, once we start sessions step by step, you will understand all these concepts from scratch. So let me tell you quickly the design and the tools which we are going to use now in this demo session. So the very first tool, so whenever you start any development, you would need the tools. So the very first tool which we would need to be able to talk to our S4HANA system is Eclipse tool. In the classical world before, we used to use SAP GUI tool, but now we are going to use a Eclipse tool. And on top, we use a plugin called ADT, ABAP Development Tool plugin, to develop our S4HANA applications on the backend side. So using this tool, we are going to connect to our middleware, our middle architecture layer, which is our application layer or ABAP layer. And here we're going to develop a CDS view. Now, just a brief introduction. CDS stands for Core Data and Services. Using the CDS definition, we will create a view which would, when activated, creates a view in our in-memory database called HANA. So HANA is SAP's new in-memory database, which gives real computation powers. So basically, when we activate a view, it creates a view inside of HANA system. So this is our HANA system, and here system creates a view. So this view is what executes when you run a CDS. So all your data intensive logics are pushed down to the in-memory database, which is much powerful. We are going to cover introduction of HANA in our next class, starting from scratch. And then we're going to talk about the ADT tool in our chapter number 3. We are going to learn about CDS views more in detail from scratch and its definition from chapter 11. So these are all the things which I will be covering in different sessions. I'm just covering a brief overview to showcase you what kind of capabilities you can gain or you can develop after you complete this training. Then we will build a application. So now you know, or you would have heard by now, most of the applications on S4 are now Fiori experience. So we wanted to build a Fiori application. And to build a Fiori application, now you would need again a tool. And that's where we use a tool called SAP Business Application Studio. I'm going to cover the introduction of this tool in chapter number 14. And I'm going to cover introduction of Fiori apps in chapter 13 more in details. So we have already set up all of it for you in the demo session before the demo today for all of you, through which we will be able to demonstrate you working with a end-to-end use case. So don't be so afraid or worried about that. How do I get this? How do I get that? Don't worry, we're going to cover this more in detail in individual independent units. But for demonstration purpose, I have already configured my own system so that we can practice these things and see a nice demo. So let's go ahead and see our design for building this application. So first of all, I will have a database table. This database table is storing my COVID data. So Z COVID is my database table. And this table contains information about the cities, the states, the number of cases reported, on what date they were reported, and what's the status of these cases. So this information is stored in this database table. On top of this database table, we are now going to build a CDS view. CDS stands for Core Data and Services. This is the new way of developing applications into SAP S4HANA. So what we are going to build is a cube type of CDS view. A cube view is mainly used for the purpose of analytics, and it actually helps you to aggregate the data. Suppose I want to know how many total cases are there per city. So I can easily do that with the help of a cube view, so that I can sum or I can group by the number of cases depending on city or depending on state or date. I can do that. That's what the cube view does. On top of this cube view, we are going to build a analytic query view. This is again another CDS view, which is a analytic query. An analytic query in true sense is very powerful. It can actually provide a consumption, a unified consumption to different analytic tools like SAP Analytics Cloud or Fiori applications. So this is what we will build on top of this cube view. Don't be so overwhelmed by these terms and terminologies. We are going to cover introduction of interface consumption and private views in our chapter 14 and 15 when we go towards building S4HANA CDS views. So right now I'm just covering this as a demo, so you just get the flow out, right? Okay, then on top of it, we will expose this data as a OData service. And this OData service would then be used by our Fiori application. And this is how we are going to build with bottom-up approach this complete application. Now, the tools I've already mentioned is these three things are developed using Eclipse tool, which I've already installed in my system. And this part will be developed using Business Application Studio, which I've also configured for this demo before the session. So let's get started. And first, let me show you our data set into the system. So this is a real S4HANA system. And here is where I have a database table, Z-COVID. Let me open that. And now we can just check this table and its content. So this table has the most recent data of April month. Yes, and you can see here the dates, the district, the state, and the state code, and then the number of cases and the status of each set of these cases in the system. So we are seeing a sudden surge into the number of cases. They are rising dramatically at this point of time, and we wanted to see how they're distributed across multiple states in India. And this is all going to be in a beautiful user experience with Fiori. So now I'm going to go ahead and create a cube view on top of this. So let's do that. So I'm going to come back to my S4HANA system and create a new core data service data definition. This is the beginning of building a CDS view. Now, if you look at this tool, it is very much similar to SEAT, where on the left-hand side, you can see a list of all the project artifacts. Yes, whatever artifacts you have it, you can see them here. So this is very similar to SEAT. And then when you select a artifact, it loads the information about that artifact on the right side where you can do the coding. Yes, so we'll learn how to set up this tool in our next class. You all will be able to do a complete hands-on during this training program. It's fully designed with a lot of Power Pack examples, including the sample and demo data we will provide it to you. So let's come here. Now I will just define a new view. So I will call it as a composite view. So let me call composite view COVID. This is a cube view which will have capability to total cases by different dimensions like city, state code, date, and then I will click on finish. So that creates my first CDS view definition, and it's very similar to a select query. You can say define view as select from my data source name. So let me give a view name. on the top. So APRCOVID, and then we will here put our table name, COVID. We can now do control space and load all the fields from our database table. So these are all the fields we have. And at the same time, now I wanted to define here a annotation called default aggregation, and we'll put it as hashtag sum, which means I wanted to total my number of cases, which is a numeric column at runtime, depending on any of my dimensions. I will save this, and now I will also mark it as a cube view because I'm going to use it to aggregate my data. So I will put a data category as cube. Very important. Once we are done, let's activate the DAG. So let's go back and check review. So now we have a table on top. We've created a cube view. The next step is to create an analytic query. So let's do so. I'm going to copy this view name, and now I will create another view. So let's go ahead. Same process, ZAPR C COVID. So here I put COVID, and I'll say consumption view. A consumption view is mainly for the purpose of consuming it in a Fiori application or in an analytic tool like Analytics Cloud. We're also going to cover consumption of CDS views in Analytics Cloud in this training. Okay, let's move on and just define a view. And I click on finish. And now this time, let me give the view names is APRC. And now I'll choose my cube view, which I've just created as a data source on top. So here we are now going to define our columns. So let's do so. So these are all the columns which we've got from our underlying view. And at this point of time, I want to introduce you with a special concept called annotations. So basically what we do is we define all the fields which we would need here, but at runtime, we would need them to turn into a special indicator, which will tell our Fiori application, to build a screen. Now to build this screen which we are going to design is a analytic list page application, which includes a search field on the top. It contains a search bar, and that includes multiple search fields. And then there will be a go button. And just below that, it contains content area, which is made up of two parts. One will be a chart area, and another will be a table area. So how this Fiori app will get built? This Fiori app will get built based on what you will supply in the CDS. So in your CDS view, we have to provide indicators so that my framework can display this Fiori app. Okay, so we would need a search field. So if you need, let's say, 3 search field for what you want to search, if you want to search based on, let's say, state or date, then you have to put annotations like @ UI dot selection field. So this annotation is required to build selection field on the screen. Then if you want a chart, then you have to use @UI chart annotation. In the next step, if you want a table is consist of multiple columns. Yes. And this is something which we represent using @UI. You see all of them starts with UI, line item annotation. So these are all the annotations which we would be using in today's context, but there are much broader scope to the list of annotations, the way we consume and use them. So that is the reason we have to go through this complete training more in details. So now what I will show you is using these annotations one by one. So I would want a search field for the date. So let me put @UI, and you see you get a nice code completion in the tool. So I will choose selection field, and I will say this is going to be position number 1. I want one more search field based on state code, and I will put it at position 2. So I will get my 2 search fields on the top section. Then I would need a chart, and to build a chart, you need to add that at the top of the CDS. So let's put a chart annotation. Yes. And in this chart annotation, I wanted to display a chart. showcasing, as I mentioned earlier, it should showcase total number of cases day wise for each state. So let's see here, if I have different dates on x-axis, then if I have, let's say, date 1st of April, 2nd of April, and let's say 3rd of April. So first dimension here is my date, which is this date announced. The second thing is, within that date, you would have got different cases in different states. So let's say a state, Maharashtra, then you have Karnataka, and then you have Delhi. So I want here a stack chart which will display the cases in each state, Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Delhi for that date. So this is my another dimension, which is state. And on my y-axis, I wanted to show the number of cases. So that is my measure. So here we will have cases which will display, okay, in Maharashtra we have this much, in Karnataka we have this much, and in Delhi we have this much. So this is a stack chart we want to build, and this will show per date, per state, how many cases are there, which is what it will actually display over here. Yeah, something like this, which is a stack chart. So this will give me an overall idea which state contributing to a lot of cases on everyday basis, and how the cases are showing what pattern, is it inclining or declining pattern on cases. So that's a chart I wanted to build, and that's the reason I have used a annotation called chart annotation. So here we are now going to add a couple of properties. Like first property is a qualifier, and I can say cases, just a name called cases. The next thing is I want a chart type. So as I mentioned, we are going to use a column chart. So let's use a hashtag column stack chart. This is the chart type. Then next, I wanted to put my dimensions, on what basis I want to analyze data. So I can do control space and say I want to analyze by date announced and my states which are involved in this. So let's say detected states. Yes. Next is I want to put my dimension attributes, and I'll say my date is going to be acting as a x-axis, but my state is going to play like a series of data on my x-axis. So I'll put dimension property. My first dimension is state property, and this is going to work like a series of values. And then I will say my next property is again dimension, and here we will put the date on which it was announced, but this one is going to be my x-axis, so we will put here the role property as category. Now, how do I know that what to put when? So this is something which is part of a documentation, which I will also show you in class number 18, when I'll explain you about UI annotations with chart more in detail. We will also build a couple of dashboards with overview pages as well in this training. It's super simple. You don't need to have any Fiori experience to build these things, and it's super easy to read the documentation and get this one done. But right now it's a demo session, so I'm just covering one sample scenario so you can understand at least the use case. Then we'll put measures. We just have one measure, which is our numeric column, which shows the number of cases, so num cases. And now we will just say it's going to be plotted on the y-axis. So we say measure attribute, please plot my measure number of cases on my y-axis, which is axis 1. Superb. So that's the setting we have done for the chart. We have added fields, and it's time to add also columns for the table. So let's add columns. So that comes as line item, and I can say position 1. My first column is going to be date. My second column is going to be district. Third column is going to be state. Fourth column is going to be code of the state. And final last column is going to be okay, last, not last, second last is number of cases, and then finally my current status. So there are 6 columns which system will print on the table. Cool. I think that is perfect. Let me also now mark this as a analytic query, and analytic dot query is true, very important point, and we can activate our view for now. So if I execute this view F8, then you can see the data is popping up. That's okay, that's cool. But how will this data transform into a web-based Fiori application, right? So there are two things which we need to take care. So we are just done with analytic query. The next step is to build a OData service so that Fiori can consume this data over the network, over the HTTP protocol. So that's a very, very important setting which we need to take care here for this particular system. Yeah, so let us go ahead and build a OData service. Now, what is an OData service? We're going to cover complementary sessions on what is an OData service, how it looks like. If you're absolute beginner with OData service, don't worry, you will get used to them very fast once I cover this topic in chapter 16. Okay, now, for now, understand it's a web service, it's a web-based interface to expose data out of your ERP system over the internet. So that is what we want. And to build it, you don't have to put too much effort. You just can go ahead and use a annotation called odata.publish equals to true, and that's all. The OData service will be created with the same name as your CDS name. So this will be my CDS name. It will just prefix a underscore CDS to build this OData. Let me activate, and now my view will be active with a OData service. Now, how do we test this OData service? To test it, we need to first activate it. So we just build it, but we didn't activate it. To activate, we need to open a SAP GUI window, and then I have to go to a transaction code called IWFND/mint service T code, where we can register our order services in SAP S4HANA system. So you may be wondering, how come I am able to open a GUI screen inside this tool? That's the beauty of this tool. We're going to cover this in chapter 2 more in detail. So now I click and add this service, register the service for my consumption into my into an internet-based tool called BAS. So I will add that, and now our service is ready. You can check and test this service pretty easily. Just go back to the CDS outline view, and here you can see OData. Right-click and say Open, and this will launch our OData service into the browser. Wow, you can see this is our OData service. So if I wanted to just know uh, how many cases are there per state, so I can just put this OData service entity set name, and I can just say I wanted to know the cases per state. So let me just put a ampersand $select, and I can just put a property name. Property name is my state code. So state code, and I want to put num cases. So let's go back, state code comma num cases, enter, and this is what is going to tell you per state how many total cases are there. It's just totaling it up, you can see. Yeah, so that's the beauty of working with the OData service. It exposing our enterprise data over the network, which is what we can use now to build a Fiori application. You can't consume directly the BOPFs or function modules into the Fiori apps. Okay, it's not possible. So to build a Fiori application as a next phase now, we need to use a tool, and that's what I mentioned. We need to next step go to this tool called Business Application Studio. How do we ramp up on this tool? How do we onboard? We're going to cover chapter 14 and 15, including the connectivity options. So just don't be overwhelmed with this demo. All of this will be phase by phase. We are going to learn in next 40 hours. So this is again just a demo. So let me go back and switch over to this tool. This is our Business Application Studio Fiori development tool. And now I can just create a new project. So I will go to welcome page, and we will start a project from template, and we will choose here a Fiori application, and we will choose a analytic list page app. This is the one we want. Okay, now one more thing which was really necessary, I missed out actually. We have to also put another annotation called presentation variant. Why? because at the beginning when applications start, what data should display at the beginning, that comes in a presentation variant. And here I just need to mention a qualifier. So let me maintain a qualifier called Anubhav Oberoi. And then I will mention which chart or how this should be displayed on the screen. So that is called visualization setting. And I'll say when you start the application, please load a chart into the content area with a qualifier as this cases. So this cases I'm linking here. So when my application starts, please load a chart as per this qualifier cases, and as per the cases, this is what is going to get loaded. So this is a presentation variant which is very important. We need to also respect and consider this annotation, which I missed. Okay, we are good. Let's go back to our BAS tool, and here we'll start building a analytic list page. Click on next. It's super easy, super simple. You don't need to have any prior experience on developing Fiori apps. You'll be able to build applications nicely, even transactional apps in this training. So let's connect to our SAP system. And now I will choose my SAP system, which is my ABAP environment S4HANA connection, which I've already maintained before the session. So we will cover this in our coming classes. Now I just choose my service. So we just registered a service with the same name as CDS name. I'm just going to grab and paste that. You can see it is able to detect. And I will just select my service. So it's just grabbing the information. And now we can just go ahead and select what type of table you want to display. So we want to display a responsive table on the Fiori app, and we wanted to just go ahead to next step. And now we will give our project attributes. So I will give our project name, let's say COVID Dashboard, and I will give the application URL, anubhavtrainings.com, and we will just come down, cross-check everything, and say finish. So that now creates a Fiori application on the left-hand side. Yes, and we can just open this Fiori application, COVID Dashboard. You can see system creates a special file called manifest.json, which is a very important file. And if you come to this file at the bottom, you will see the magic what's happening. So here system generated this this component called analytic list page out of the box. And in this component, it is just put some settings. Now, one important thing just a small change which you need to do here is connect and tell this Fiori app to connect to our presentation variant named as Anubhav Oberoi. This is a very important step. So I will copy this name and I will just go back and put that here in the qualifier section. Yes, this is the important change. I'll save it. And now it's time to test our Fiori app. That's all, guys. And we are ready. There's no coding knowledge required on building Fiori apps at all. So you can quickly build Fiori apps out of the box using this tool. Okay, so let's go to run. And I'm just going to execute my COVID dashboard. Run this, and that should start our application over here right now. So you can see it is just installing all the required dependencies and just making our application ready to run, creating all the connections it requires to the SAP backend system, my S4HANA system, and then it's going to start a application directly on my browser now. So let's wait for the message, and there you go. I launch, and this is the beginning of our app. So it's booting up. It's going to take few seconds until it starts, it loads. And now you can see it has loaded our app. So you can notice that we have got a date filter, yes, with a calendar control, and we've got a field called 3-byte field. Okay, that label is not coming properly, but at least you can see we've given two selection fields, selection field for state code and selection field for date. So that's why we got these two selection fields out there on the top. We have got an area, but it has nothing to display at the moment. And we've got a table with these fields. But now the thing is the labels are not proper. So you see this is a 3-byte field, logical system, 3-byte field. This is not good for end user. So we can also add some annotations to get the labels corrected. So let's put here @ end user text annotation, and then we'll say date. And then I will say detected district. So I can say city name. Then I will have a state. So I'll just put state, and then I'll say state code. These are the labels now you'll see soon on the screen. And then I'll say cases. And finally, I will just put here the status. And I'll save my CDS view. Watch out, that's the true power of these annotation concept in CDS. If I switch over back, you see these labels are not proper. If I refresh my application, it now go and connect to CDS and read all the latest annotations through the OData, and then it's going to automatically get the labels as we have provided them into the CDS. Yes, there you go. You can see now your labels are proper. City, state, earlier it was getting like 3-byte, 4-byte something. Yeah, and now they are much better state. You've got the better labels. Yes. So if you want, you can provide filter criteria, but right now I want to run this right away. I just click on go button, and this will now update my live data from SAP S4HANA system. Voila. You can see my chart is loaded in the middle. Yeah. And then we've got also the data here in the table. So now I wanted to maximize and explain you this chart as per our requirement. So if I maximize, you can see here per date how the cases are growing in India. Wow, there you go. You can see the graph is perhaps going towards a peak, and you can see here these stacks over here, they represent each state. So as truly I know that currently the most contributing state to the cases, rising cases, is Maharashtra. So if you see this biggest block here, if I just hover my mouse, you will see it will tell me what state is this. So just take my mouse over there, and hover and just leave it, and there you go. You can see on 15th of April, there were 1.15 lakh cases only alone in Maharashtra. And the next bigger block is this UP, Uttar Pradesh. And then the next one is Delhi. And then the next one is Chhattisgarh. So these are all the 4 or 5 most prone states which are contributing to this big number of chunks, the total India cases on different dates, state-wise breakup. So same you can do for United States, like each county or each state level, how the cases are broken down into pieces. So that is something which we can nicely do that through this COVID dashboard with real S4 data. It's a very practical use case. Perhaps one of the hospital or some pharmaceutical company or maybe a government or body would want to analyze this data live in the system. We can really deliver this as a productive application. And now I will go back and maybe just wanted to do a search. So I will just go ahead and search for, let's say, only for one state, let's say Delhi, DL. I think that's the correct code. Let me just try. And yes, it is. And you can see only Delhi cases now over here in the chart. And the table also shows only the Delhi cases into the table. So you can also change the chart type here. There are a lot of capabilities for sorting, searching. You can sort data. Yes, you can sort data by ascending, descending order. You can change the chart settings. There are a lot of chart settings, a lot of chart types. I want to show a pie chart. So I can just click on OK, and this turns into now a pie chart right in front of me for daily cases day by day. So you can clearly make out that when exactly you had the highest number of cases. So these are the 2 dates, so-called, I guess, date is 19th and 18th, and then 17th, and of course 16th. So these 4 days or 5 days, we have highest number of cases in Delhi. So this is how we can clearly see. You can export data to Excel sheet. All of these are out of the box features into the system, which you can get with this analytic dashboard application built on S4HANA in last 30 minutes. So I hope you enjoyed this demo session on ABAP on HANA. This gives you a brief perspective, but overall how we are going to build and develop applications on S4HANA end-to-end. So let me switch over to some frequently asked questions. Do I need any prior knowledge on HANA to understand this training? No. We will cover SAP HANA Foundation in this training. You don't need to have any prior experience or knowledge on HANA. Even you never heard a word HANA, don't worry. We're going to cover the basics in the coming classes. How much ABAP knowledge is required for learning ABAP on HANA? You just need to have basic knowledge on ABAP. No need of OOPS. Just basic knowledge on data dictionary, internal table, basic syntax and function modules. That's more than enough. That is also just required for 30% of this course. Rest all topics are even new for ABAP developers. So next question is, I am from BWBI background. Can I learn ABAP on HANA? Yes, you should and you must, because S4HANA embedded analytics or analytics in analytics cloud is based out of CDS views these days. And CDS view is one topic you don't want to skip as a BW consultant. How much deep knowledge of OOPS ABAP is required? Basic, if you just know basic of what is a class interface, that's more than enough. We don't need too much of OOPS in this training. What about server access? I don't have one, so don't worry. If you want us to arrange a server, we can arrange a server for you. We have the facility available. You saw already today's session was on a server. We have the same server available and open. You can access from any network 24/7. We can give you a complete end-to-end learning experience with hands-on through us. So I will guide you in chapter 3 about server access in 1 hour lecture itself. So 1 hour lecture only on server access. We have it coming soon on chapter 3. So please wait for that. Then which version of SAP HANA are we going to use, or S4HANA? So we're going to use SAP S4HANA latest 2009 and then HANA 2.0 with ABA layer we are going to use for development of applications. How much of this course we're going to spend on CDS topic? So around 40 to 50% of the training is only on CDS related topics, like you also saw in the demo today. Do I need prior OData experience? No. I will provide you the complimentary session on OData services through which you can learn OData service basics. Don't need to have deep dive or deep knowledge on OData at all. Can I ask, can I also take this course into the video mode as timing doesn't suit me? Please go ahead. You can take this complete video mode training. You don't need to be fixing your appointment with the classes. You can go with pre-recorded videos of the same training content, the most recently completed batch with us. You can go through that. What tools do we need to practice for this training? So we would predominantly working with ABAP development tool on Eclipse, for which I will show you installation tomorrow's class. And then we will work with BAS, Web IDE tools for Fiori development. So I will show you setup for that also in coming classes. How do you get enrolled and onboarded on these tools? So that will be all in all, you'll be able to have a consistent learning experience. To join this training, you can just email us on contact@anubhavtrainings.com. With that, Anubhav signing out. Thank you so much for being part of this demo session today, and I hope to see you in my next class. Goodbye.